Hello, beautiful people of the interwebs! Long time no see. This is going to be my 8th attempt at a vlog. Couple of things to talk about today. The main thing is, where have I been? I know for the last couple of weeks I haven't been uploading much of anything. I've been uploading very slowly. That's just because I have been having a really bad CFS cycle for the past, I guess it's been 2 weeks now. I think I mentioned in a previous vlog that I have CFS, which if you've never heard of it, it's chronic fatigue syndrome, and it essentially leads to bouts of unexplained horrible exhaustion where some people actually literally can't get out of bed. I'm lucky enough that I don't have it that bad, but it can get very difficult to move. It can take me a long time to do anything. You get a kind of brain fog where you can't really concentrate and you're just making a lot of mistakes. It can be difficult to converse with people. And of course, most importantly, you're just really, really, really tired to the point that, you know, just lay there for hours, really thirsty, really hungry, and just not physically being able to get up and go take care of these perfectly normal things that people need to do. So even though it would have been really awesome to play Skyrim during that time, I haven't had the energy. I literally hadn't turned on my computer and I don't even know how many days. I did, at least I got a Chromebook. Can you see it? This is actually the first time I ever had any kind of laptop type device, so I sort of just went with a cheap one to see if I liked it. I do have a tablet. I've had a tablet for several years, but never a laptop. And this has really come in handy because I just sort of have it next to me on the sofa, and I'm able to at least check my email or something without having to get up and make too much effort. Now, I've really been feeling over the past couple of days that I'm getting at the tail end. I feel a lot better right now in this moment than I have recently, but I'm still having my rough moments. This morning I woke up at 7 and then I spent the next 4.5 hours trying to like fight my way into consciousness for the day and just kept conking out just over and over again, not wanting to move, wanting to get up, not being able to do it. But finally, a little after 11:30, I managed to get up and try to shake off some cobwebs. And yes, my hair is soaking wet. That's because it's 1 in the afternoon. I just got out of the shower 5 minutes ago. Well spotted. Anyway, so that is essentially the reason why I haven't been around much, haven't been putting up vlogs, and I haven't played Skyrim, recorded Skyrim, or uploaded Skyrim. The last video that I uploaded, which is me just dying repeatedly in that Tech fight, that's the last time that I played, and it was quite a while ago. I had just walked away from the fight for a short period of time to try to come up with some ideas, some new strategies, not necessarily good strategies, for trying to get out of there alive, because obviously I need to keep at it until Reesha manages to survive and gets out of there, and then the CFS hit and it just turned into a big thing. I'll apologize for all of the noise outside. I have like the windows open because it's a really nice day and I'm basically right next to the road at this point. So there's lots of cars and motorcycles and, I don't know, jet planes flying directly over my house for some reason. I swear it wasn't this loud before I started recording today. Of course, how would I know? I was unconscious most of the time. Now, on top of all of that fun stuff, when I finally got myself together this morning and I thought, okay, I think I could do it. I think I have enough energy to get up, turn on that computer, make sure it still works, and do some testing and do some recording. First time I turned on my computer in a few days, and it turned out that NVIDIA, who makes my graphics card and also makes Shadowplay, which I've been using to record my Skyrim Let's Play, had a driver update. Those of you who have a NVIDIA card know exactly what I'm about to talk about, and those of you who don't can count your lucky stars. Apparently this happened about a day, maybe 2 days ago. I just wasn't around for the initial blow-up. NVIDIA put out a new driver, I believe it's 344.11 or something like that, for both the graphics card itself and also for GeForce Experience. And the one for GeForce Experience essentially makes it impossible to use Shadowplay to record Skyrim. And actually, if you try to open Skyrim, you will get an error over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, which some are saying seems to be related to an ENB, and have suggested uninstalling your ENBs. But others have said that if they uninstall the ENBs, the error goes away and they're able to play, but then they're getting more and more crashes as well, which was new to them. So I haven't even tried to uninstall my ENB, which isn't even anything. It's just EN Boost. Like, the graphics modification isn't even enabled in my ENB series. I have it off. It's just there for EN Boost. And you would assume, since it's a graphics card, that if it was having problems with the driver and an ENB, it would be the graphics modifications, not with ENB frickin' Boost. But whatever, you know, fine. It's fine. So essentially what that meant is that as soon as I started up my computer and installed the new driver, I lost the ability to record my Let's Play with Shadowplay. And we do know that it is GeForce Experience that is the problem, because if you uninstall GeForce Experience, but you hold on to your control panel, your NVIDIA control panel, the error goes away and there's no problem. Now, seeing as how I was only using GeForce Experience for Shadowplay, and there's absolutely nothing else in there that has been helpful to me at all, I had no problem with uninstalling it once Shadowplay wasn't working, which I did, and now my Skyrim is loading up just fine. But it does mean that until they fix this problem, if they ever do, I have to go back to Fraps. Now, there are both good things and bad things about having to leave Shadowplay and go back to Fraps for recording this Let's Play. The good things are, the problem I've been having with Shadowplay that if you're watching my LP, you might have noticed in the past few videos, is that the Shadowplay, ironically, does not record shadows very well. In-game, the shadows are beautiful. They're rich, they're dark, they're smooth. It looks very realistic, it's scary, you know. And then when I look back at the Shadowplay recording, the shadows are mixtures of grays and whites. They're pixelated, they're blocky. They're just really badly rendered, and they're just not pretty. I haven't been able to fix it, but then again, I hadn't been trying that hard. One of the things I was intending to do today, when I finally got up and turned on my computer for the first time in who knows how long, was I was going to try to mess around with settings in the NVIDIA control panel, including things like contrast, to try to fix that issue that's bothering me a little bit, but obviously not enough to stop using Shadowplay. Because one thing that had occurred to me is that at the time I got Shadowplay, I also got a new graphics card, and I had never really gone in and messed around with any of the settings, so I thought that it might have more to do with the settings of the graphic card I hadn't adjusted rather than Shadowplay itself. However, once I figured out the whole NVIDIA 344.11 breaks Skyrim thing, I realized that ever since I got the new card, I hadn't tried Fraps for recording. So I went in and I did a test in a very shadowy area, and it looks just as beautiful in Fraps as it does when I'm playing. So it can't just be the graphics card. It's got to be related to Shadowplay somehow. I'm not sure exactly how, and now that I don't have access to it, I guess it doesn't really matter. So that's a good thing. We'll get rich shadows back with the Fraps recording, so that'll be good. The bad thing is, I'm sure, as you probably already know, Fraps will give you a huge frame rate hit, which is part of the reason I was so excited to get away from it. It makes beautiful videos, and yes, they're very big when they first are made, but if you have a dedicated drive for recording, which you should anyway if you're recording a Let's Play, it really doesn't matter, and you can put those files through Handbrake before you use them and just shrink them down, you know, like a ton, and make it a lot easier to work with them. But there really isn't any getting away from that frame rate drop, and it can be pretty bad sometimes. I play at 60 FPS and I record at 30 FPS when I use Fraps. And I do that because Fraps, I think, does a pretty good job of doing that consolidation without making it look choppy in movement. When I record with Shadowplay, I play at 60 FPS and I record at 60 FPS because Shadowplay does a terrible job of that kind of consolidation. Everything looks really choppy with the movement. It works out a lot better if I put the Shadowplay videos through Handbrake and let it reduce it from 60 to 30. And when I was recording with Shadowplay, I was actually getting around 60 FPS almost everywhere that I went. Some places, you know, if there's a lot of trees or really large vista, it might drop down to 55. There are certain places in certain cities where the frame rate drops really far just because there's too much stuff loading, it's just too busy and it's not very well optimized, blah, 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 blah. You probably know about all of this. But with Shadowplay, it really didn't matter that much because Shadowplay was not causing a noticeable FPS drop. Fraps, you can lose like, I don't know, 15 FPS or something just from recording with Fraps, which isn't a big deal when I was getting 60 in those places because I'm recording at 30 anyway. But in places where I would walk in the door and get 30 or get 28, going back to recording with Fraps is going to make that not pleasant. And of course, as you probably recognize, when I started recording with Shadowplay, I was so excited about the lack of FPS drop that I started installing like a lot of high-res stuff that I probably wouldn't have installed so quickly back to back to back if I had still been using Fraps and knew I had to be careful about my frame rate. So going back to it now could cause some problems. As far as I could tell, there has been a pretty big outcry in the gaming community about the GeForce Experience driver update and what it's doing to their games. Skyrim is not the only game affected. And from what I've read about this driver update, it mainly seems that it's just for if you have the GTX 900 series. And I wasn't entirely sure why I needed to install this update when I have a GTX 700 series. And I do kind of wonder if there was some sort of mistake made where only people with the GTX 900 series were supposed to get this driver update. And unfortunately, everyone got it, and that's why it's causing a lot of problems. Because it does seem very strange that they would apply a driver update to everyone that would cause so many problems immediately. I know people like to say when there's problems like, you guys didn't even test this. But it's like, yeah, they did. They tested the shit out of it. You have to when you're going to send something off to the machines of like, I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of people have their products. So it was tested and this wasn't picked up on, or there was just some sort of error in the distribution of it. I don't know, but I'm really hoping that NVIDIA will fix it, that I can go back to Shadowplay and go back to worrying about how to make the shadows look nice instead of worrying about whether or not I'm going to have to uninstall a high-res pack because Fraps is giving me too big of a frame rate hit. Now, I do have OBS, Open Broadcast Software, which I specifically had downloaded just to set up for live streaming, which you might notice I haven't done yet, even though I have a Chromebook now, so I should be able to do it. I just, every time I look at OBS and trying to set it up, I'm just like, I don't have the energy for this. This looks way too hard. And when I try to look up how-to videos and stuff, they're always like 35 minutes long. It's just like, wow, really? I need 35 minutes of watching this video just to be able to set up the most basic. It's just really hard to use, in my personal opinion. I'm sure other people out there will say, no, it isn't. It's really, really simple, but that's your experience. This has been mine. But I have made to understand that some people actually use OBS to record their Let's Plays, which hadn't occurred to me at all until very recently. I'd always just thought of it as something to use for live streaming. So if I am having a big frame rate problem with Fraps now with all the high-res stuff installed, I might look at OBS as something to use while I wait in hope that Shadowplay gets fixed, that the driver update gets fixed. And in case you're thinking, well, why don't you just roll back to the last driver? Well, I thought about that, but a bunch of other people have tried it, and weirdly, once you've installed the new driver, going back to the old one actually doesn't fix the problem. I'm not really sure how that works out, but people have like uninstalled everything to do with NVIDIA and then reinstalled the previous version with previous driver and still have the problem. As long as they installed the new one, which I did automatically, just thinking it was a tiny little update, everybody seems to be pretty much screwed. Unless you're willing to uninstall your EMB, and even that seems to be a subject for debate. But it's only been a couple of days, so hopefully either it'll get fixed by NVIDIA or someone will find a workaround that includes being able to keep GeForce Experience and use Shadowplay, and being able to keep ENBs, or at the very least ENB Boost, which has no graphical modifications. I am intending, after I'm done recording and editing and uploading this vlog, assuming that I haven't passed out by then, I am intending to play some Skyrim today, record it with Fraps, and see if maybe I can work my way through the, I think it's just like a mini-boss or like a sub-boss into overtech because I think once I kill him, I have like an even worse guy ahead of me. So it'd be nice just to be able to get through this guy. And I'm going to work really hard to do that. So I'm hoping to do that a little bit later on today. Now this is going to make this vlog seem really, really scattered, but the other thing that I'm going to do today, because I promised I would, it was requested that I say and show what books are usually behind me on this. Okay, right is left, left is right. Okay, on this table back here, yeah, right there, where the phone is. I usually have piles of books there, which aren't there right now because they're actually down here next to me on the floor, because it is requested that I say what books they are and what I'm reading. There are a lot of them, so I'll try to go through them relatively quickly if I can. I don't like to read just one book at a time, because if I do that after a chapter or two, I start to get bored, my mind starts to wander, and I guess it isn't so much getting bored as I can't really concentrate on that subject anymore. I don't have ADD or ADHD, but I have always been really, really good at multitasking. It'll be a lot of times I'll be like watching a movie, reading a book, chatting in an IM client, surfing the web all at the same time. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, let me just show you what books I'm sort of reading, or at least I'm having there to remind myself that I need to read them sometime soon. I'll start with a set to get them out of the way quickly. You see that? That's a Strain series by Chuck Hogan and Guillermo del Toro. I have read the first one, which I don't know where my dust jacket went. Maybe I bought it with that one. I probably bought it at a used bookstore. I read the first one like, I don't know, a dozen times. I really love the first book. I've only read the second one maybe 2 times, and I've actually never finished the third one. But I'm doing really good. That's the front, and I'm like, I'm more than halfway through. Unfortunately, I love the first one so much. A lot of times it gets to the end of it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read that again. But now they have the series out, the Strain series, which I've been watching through Amazon Instant Video, and it's good, but at the same time, I'm like, why would you change that? Why would you introduce a character who means nothing? What is happening? But I do want to kind of get through the third book, because I hate to be spoiled on book stuff in a show, and I could see within the first couple of episodes that they're mixing stuff up from the second book into the first series already, so. The Strain! Alright, and move on to the next series, which would be Tolkien. Got the Lord of the Rings 3-book red book thing there. There's The Hobbit, and that's the Silmarillion. And I've read The Hobbit I don't know how many times, or The Rings I don't know how many times. Never managed to get through the Silmarillion. Hey! Is anybody else starting to notice a pattern here? I don't know if I've ever actually gotten to page 100. And the reason for that is, if you've ever read the Silmarillion, it starts off just basically telling the same fucking story over and over again from different people's perspectives. I don't know. It's really hard to slog through. I'm hoping that it gets better later. Presumably it does, because lots of people enjoy it. This is just the H.P. Lovecraft book that I'm reading through right now. I think I might own every H.P. Lovecraft everything that was ever written, every like collection of his stories. And this one is an annotated series. There was annotated H.P. Lovecraft, and then this is more annotated H.P. Lovecraft, which I do like when they go through books and they add annotations to explain certain things that you might have not understood or you might have misunderstood. So that's very interesting. And somebody, I don't know if you can hear that, but somebody's coming to arrest me for reading Lovecraft. Oh no. And speaking of annotation and how much I love it, this is the first book in my 3-book series of the new annotated. I'm really having a hard time with this camera thing. Right. Okay. The new annotated Sherlock Holmes. This thing is freaking great. It comes in this huge 3-box set, and the side of it is like, you can see his pipe there, but it makes like a silhouette of Sherlock Holmes, and it's really, really interesting. You don't want to get it if you haven't read the stories before, because it would just be a slog and it would be really uninteresting. But if you know the stories, you've read them all before, or most of them before, and you love them, and you want to learn more about the time, what they were written, and what Doyle was talking about sometimes when you use some of those old words that we don't use so much anymore. This is a really great, really interesting series that I've reread a couple of times. And this is Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh, and seeing as how I don't speak ancient Egyptian. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. This is the story about the female king of Egypt, Hatshepsut. And she wasn't a queen, she was a woman who took on the title of king and ruled by herself as a king would. It's a very interesting story, and I can recommend it if you like reading historical nonfiction stuff like that. The complete Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. Every now and then I just grab one out of here and read it. I don't generally read it from beginning to end, but it can be interesting to read the fairy tales the way they were originally written. They're usually pretty terrible, to be honest. Violent. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think I bought this entire series. I actually haven't even started the book yet. I watched the original movies with subtitles. I thought that they were really good, and I wanted to read the books that they came from. I haven't seen the American versions. I understand they reshot the movies with American actors or whatever. I haven't seen those. I usually don't like that sort of thing. But I have been meaning to read the books for some time. I just never quite get started on it because, as you can see, I'm usually reading a lot of stuff. A Canticle for Leibowitz. I love this book. This is really, really good. I actually picked this book up. This is my original copy that I picked up when I was like 9 or 10 at some yard sale. I just thought it was really interesting, and being that I was like 9 or 10, it took me forever to get through this book. There's a lot of Latin in here, and there was no internet, at least at our house at this time, so I had to like get a Latin dictionary and try to figure out what they were saying, which was interesting to me. It's just really good. I read through it a few times, and I can't really say enough good things about it. Probably most of you have heard of it because I understand that a lot of times in high school it's like required reading or something, or maybe just in certain college courses. I'm not sure. I was never told I had to read it in school, but very enjoyable book. Wicked! I fucking hate this book. This is like the 4th time I have tried to read this horrible slog of a book. I do not understand what people see in this fucking book, but I saw the musical and it was pretty funny. I liked it. I couldn't understand what they were saying half the time because, again, no freaking captions. And the next time I was at the Strand in New York, they had Wicked and I think the second one, which is Son of a Witch, on sale. It was like on special. You buy them together. It was really super cheap. So I bought them both. So I'm sort of like, I need to read this because I have a whole other book on my bookshelf that I can't read until I get through this, but I have a feeling the second one is just going to be as... I don't want to say that it's horribly written. Obviously, a lot of people really like it, but I find the style of writing this book so stilted and so boring that every time I try to read it, I'll get like 2 pages in and I'm just like, wow, this is a really unpleasant read for me. This is actually the furthest I've gotten. I'm about halfway through. I'm only halfway through. Okay, we're down to the last 5 books. I left these for last because I just got them, so I don't really know anything about them yet. I heard about this book on an interview or a book review or something on NPR about the language of food. I love food. I love to eat. And I also really like etymology. I hate false etymologies. That really bothers me. And this is about how different foods got to be called what they are. And I haven't started it yet. I just bought it just the other day. But it sounds really good. And it's about, like, you know, why do we call a toast when it has nothing to do with toast? Well, it's because it used to do with toast. And, you know, just where all those interesting names of foods came from and why certain foods sound similar, but they seem to have nothing to do with each other. Just basically the history of language and food, and that is just fascinating to me, and I can't wait to get to it. But I actually have to wait a little while because I bought this one, but I have like 4 library books I need to get through first before I get started because they're due back like next week. And the 4 library books that I picked up that I really need to hurry up and read, but I've been too tired to read this last week, so I've just like lost a week. First one is The Perfect Theory, A Century of Geniuses and the Battle Over General Relativity. I do have a sort of layman's interest in theoretical physics. I know that sounds terribly boring, but I find it really, really interesting. I love pretty much anything by Stephen Hawking. It's all on my shelf. I love pretty much anything by Michio Kaku. It's pretty much on my shelf. And this fellow, Pedro G. Ferreira, I don't think I've read anything of his before. You can see I've only just started it. I've only read a couple of chapters so far. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of written in a more conversational tone, which can always be good when you're approaching difficult subjects. And in the same vein, I also got out the theoretical minimum, which I was hoping just to maybe help me a little bit with the equations, which when it comes to anything with theoretical physics, the idea stuff is not a problem. Like, I find it really interesting. That's the best part. But when it gets into the formulas and the mathematics, then I'm like, okay, wait, slow down. Wait, what means what? Wait, hold on. So I'm hoping that this book will help me to get a little bit of a baser understanding of that stuff. And I just picked this one up as well, Seeds of Hope by Jane Goodall. Everybody loves Jane Goodall, right? She's like ancient, and she did all that stuff with chimpanzees, and I read all that stuff about her work with the chimpanzees when I was a kid, and I was totally in love with Jane Goodall, and like I wanted to meet her and be her friend. But actually most of her work has been, you know, with nature and plants, so that's sort of more what this is about. Now, this book has actually generated a lot of controversy about the possibility that some of the passages in here might have been lifted from other writers or from other interviews, and that some of the conclusions that are come to are not necessarily scientifically accurate and are still being debated in science circles. So I'm going to read it anyway because I do like Jane Goodall, and I want to read what she has to say, but I know that anything in here that doesn't sound quite right, I want to take with a grain of salt, maybe look it up and see what other people have to say about it. I did look up some of the instances of supposed plagiarism that people have talked about, and they didn't really look like plagiarism to me. It looked like stating of facts that were found in other places, which you would have to do like all the time when you're talking about anything scientific, but I guess maybe when it originally came out it wasn't footnoted well enough or something like that. And I can see why that would definitely be a problem if you didn't specify, like, this sentence I got from this place. And the last one I recently picked up is The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History, a book guaranteed to depress you about where our world is heading because humans are destroying it. Yay! I haven't started it yet, but, you know, I'll be ready to cry when I do. Okay, that took way longer than I had intended. I'm really sorry. I do have a lot of books that I'm reading or I'm about to start reading at the moment. That was probably really boring to most of you. Maybe I'll put in an annotation that says, if you don't want to hear about every freaking book that I've been reading over the past month, then please click here, and then it'll move you to, like, here. Which I guess will be just in time to hear me say that I think that's about all that I had to say. I need to go get some lunch, which is really going to be more like breakfast, take something for this migraine that's forming behind my right eye, and hopefully get ready to record some Skyrim a little later in the day, because I would love to have a piece of Let's Play to upload so that you don't think that I have given up on you or given up on the Let's Play, or that I've disappeared, or that I'm slowly disappearing from YouTube, because that's not the case at all. I know I've said this before, but I really can't wait to get back to a steady diet of uploading one video of Let's Play each day. That's really where I want to be, and I don't like being in this place where I'm out of content or I'm uploading videos once a week. And hopefully when I do get in there and I start trying to fight that Dwemer guy who's, I think he's being mind controlled actually, because he was really nice at first and now he's being really mean. Hopefully I die less often than I am anticipating that I will, because otherwise it might get a little monotonous for you. So I think that's about it. Have a good night. See you soon. Bye.